Hello, this is Ferdinand Rani for The Meghalayan. This is the second episode of Who Are We at 50. In the first episode, we sought views and opinions from the elderly citizens who are the first generation of people in the context of Meghalaya celebration of 50 years in 2022. This is the second episode where we will be speaking to the second generation of people who have lived throughout the 5 decades and witnessed numerous changes in the state. One can say that this generation of people have grew up with the state. The 50-year celebration started in Meghalaya on January 21st, 2022, where the occasion is being held with restrictions across the state. But beyond the celebration, these citizens shared their views on the journey of Meghalaya in the last 600 months.
I have seen the changes for the past 50 years that is happening. There are certain factor that is positive. Then many more that also that is negative.
At the end of 50 years, Meghalaya has made its presence felt in the map of India, no doubt about it. But Meghalaya has to go a long way as it is.
When it comes to celebration, sadly, I would tell you that out here, the people are not even aware of this 50 years of the statehood. Out here in the Cherrapunji and Sora constituency here, the people are not aware.
Kajala jongi hakajeng pet jonga menta at present mo kumagi ong hagaba menta ngayo iba ki don nero ki develop don ki ba ka Meghalaya kala kiu ha but ki don ru ki benta ba ka state kajala jongi kadang here hi empat ladang ye compare ladang ye nujor but ki way pat ki state.
Unlike the first generation who have seen Meghalaya since its conception, the second generation saw how the state has tried to build its foundation bit by bit and is proudly celebrating this milestone of turning 50.
Bang apet ke senong jonga menswa ngimpat don ke surok mot ki yang kisem ngim ipu ipiang re mo mentala don ki surok ki yang kisem cengiruk ki pernai te ke way ke kam kala ke bang ayo I lagi kemat ki surok namar man ngidang mat ye ledero ke surok ke bangiyo benta tang hapo expose ne be te ke ban kong ngai I jeng kala ki surok kin skinong gendong nak bun ki surok ki babha ki miet nang tapat ki nong rep jongi menta ki kham yo bun ki jeng rap nak sarkar dei kum men swa ki nang e mo tip e su tre ba ha ki to ki por menta te kum bang ong ngai phi ho knien soi ni la ya kiu mo knien soi ni la kiu kham tam nak leng nong rep nak surok te ki school bun ki khna jongi tan re wala kata kam pat biang de.
At the starting point, Meghalaya had this tremendous lack of confidence in itself, and the issue about self-esteem was very important back in 1972. From then on, it became a question of developing oneself as well as building up enough resources for oneself so that people in Meghalaya felt self-reliant. These basic dimensions of economic, political and social life are only partly achieved.
So only from the political establishments who cherish this hope of 50 years, yes, it's a platform for them to talk about achievements, but in the real life of the people, there's no change. Out of touch, the people. It's not that I'm being cynical. I'm not being cynical. I'm practical. I'm talking from what I see. Those leaders who have led the movement for achieving the statehood. I think the only figure we can remember till now is JJM Nichols Roy. Beyond him, I think those people, they have gone out of the mind of citizens out here. What the people know is only their election time, and then out of election time, the people go back to their own life. Those who slog, they slog. Those who have to go hungry, they go hungry.
Though much have been achieved in 50 years from roads to infrastructure, here is what this generation of people have witnessed throughout these years.
Ban bangawan support Shillong, then nala apoy madan ting temut ngin hap. Ban poy siapo Angeli ngin hap yat ki kenta. Lada ka surok jangi hapo Shillong ka sa long mai kum te ngam tip lano kumno kalawai jong ki khon jangi. Namar balai ki kaliman ka sngi kimi. Ki kaliman ki sngi kimi nang ta ki beriu roman ka sngi kimi te Henry kat baya ka surok jangi pat ka sa ajo. Kala ki balik de ka ambulans la don traffic jam ka ambulans kelak banyak sekmat. Tang bala dangi pat ki bru ki ba ngiyakit de ki kalila jong la ne ki ba song passenger ni la sedon ki ki senong ki bembyo ambulan mo. Te ngayu i bakat ban pois hospital te don teng mo la da yap te halanti.
Infrastructurally, there would be changes. Even now also, if you go down from here, right from Dukan Road down to Mausmai Thangkarang, and also you see new infrastructures, big buildings, hotels and homestays. This is what we see, but beyond that one, I dare not say. 20 years ago, if I have 100 rupee, that is a big amount. Nowadays, if we have only 500 rupees, it's equal to like not even 500, not even 100. So this, in terms of development, there's not much which we can say. It's very, very subjective.
Rama jalang ni bidung mo ba angan thangde beben je schemes rangko chungni adoko ragatinga bara bainga chum yarang ban beben namde naminga andi ba yako namdabat na nangani ko angade name mansan nekenga chungani bo border area o donging parang chungni border area o donging pa je schemes rangkon chungni adok ragatinga chum warang kuba name nirok sandianirang dongjani chin chinga namen jaman chakba gata onginga gapun jatrang chi chunga gapun adokrang chi chunga chepako maninga unigamun yarang area rango nambarat nakta mangin chung ode chongmatan chungni rama jalang rangko nambarat na mangin chung ode chungni songora ni thogpa pa chungni adokra nambat kapa wanggen ni nagata mangin unigamun yako namdapat nakta nangani rangde angan thangde namen nekenga.
In fact, the lack of many things, even the lack of sanitation and clean water supply, drinking water, potable drinking water supply, lack of proper water management, forest management, land management in the vulnerable ecosystems of Meghalaya, pursuance of quality of life for the agrarian farmers and also other sections of people have not found much of a place in terms of an action program supported by proper investment and funding in the planning and in the way funds were spent in Meghalaya. Sustainability has not been achieved. Self-reliance has not been achieved. Empowerment of the poor rural masses have not been achieved. Infrastructure-wide, electricity didn't reach the last of the village. The border villages are most neglected.
Where education is concerned, the elderly citizens in the first episode share that schooling is more accessible now compared to 50 years ago. Though much remains to be achieved, the children now are educated, the citizens said. Looking at the progress of education in the state, the second generation of people have this to say.
In terms of education, the progress is impressive, I must say, especially in higher education. The tribal societies have really produced a large number of scholars, not only graduates and postgraduates and doctoral degree holders, but there is a certain kind of a inclination for higher education, which is a great cultural change. The culture of higher learning has found its roots in Meghalaya. among the tribal societies of Meghalaya. And that's a very impressive achievement. But this has not percolated down to the masses. It hasn't brought up enough of the marginalized people within the tribes into the pale of higher education. And that's where higher education needs to be expanded. Unfortunately, Meghalaya does not have even its own state university. As a state government, the pensionary benefit, the welfare benefits and measures of the teachers and students are to be ensured, and that should be a top priority. Without that, the higher educational infrastructure cannot be even supported and sustained.
We yasngani na ngade blongin yasngani namen chansia ni bong a aro adok ko ni go pati ni ban thangde antangni ska ni ko gisko ska sa nong ai gijau ko parak na ska ni basak ko ni ban dong gencem andi ba namjok ya sngani na ngan thangde akan saknata namneken ya adok ni dengthang mansa dengthang ani ko ngan thangba namen nagata ska yani gisepon chenga education ni bidungo nambatat na mangen chung ode nambatken priority done kham khana ta mangen chem ang ode chungnya dokora namen dengthang gen chem lekha phorani bidungo awama angni chadam berangni sengani usan chungnya dokora dengthangat na ta mangen unigemen education ni bidungo priority done khamrang ko mukhangchi anchungni adok kham khangna mangen chem ang ode yano dengthangani ko aro dengtangan niko banam dapat niko rak banak taman cungmetkin ane antangni chancia ko ya semua kanak ta kusyuk megen.
Ki kena school jongi ba imdei ba baki kinsu dep tang kelas 10 kelas 12 kin yesong yeng henry ai baki kimi ki paru mo da ka jingirap lem ka baselen det jong sarkar mo bakan simru ki yeng ki nong rep ki bedok panirap ki ban pen school khnang bangin yo ki brio jongi ki ba qualified mo ha IAS lane ha ki no ki benta.
The livelihood of the people has taken various shapes and forms in the last 50 years which have contributed to the economy of the state. From agriculture to tourism and mining, this is the current scenario of the state economy according to these citizens.
Egi bangi trengi kita kat ki bangi ngile ba da ki jong. Ngirang duna ba kita ki kor ki buara ban pentre namar kane kedai tharai bang ngi kum ki nong rep ngidang ya duk ngim la ban thiet itu ke mesin te kejing penmit wadang duna hi kadang duna namar ba tang ibor met briu jong ngim la ngin la adu kan no ban ya tre habang ngai ya keren mat ki we ki nong rep sabar jong ke jela jong ngi te ki rep ki jakar rep jong ki behe kejing penmit jong ki behe te balai ki la ban pen mi buon namara ki tre bet ki mesin ke yau ka hat lei temut nginang duna mo kan ki export tar le ki bangi ki muram rek pa ban penyai ki mat sabar undang duna na dong sedong ngam tip balai kan ke yau tang hir tang kiu te ngilai sa ya keren hi kan sa ka sarkar tang ba ka sarkar par kelong ngi bangim la ban control ya ke yau ka hat mo ten rewat ler katar idon hi benta mo ka sarkar bakan ya rap ki nong rep kumno ba ban kam pensuk ban penya yau ki mar ki jongi
Oe ya badeng ciwala ni bidungo bangan thangde jekon ong inga yano beben namma andi ba inabatian chengo nambadat naman gen chung ode aruba nambatken dau jekai chenga ya area rangon yatken chum ode neko bat nak tamat ninga chenga bang ba takon raw material ko gapen che export ka tenga ba import pa ka inga yarang gi sepon chenga songsul adokrang baksa bang jayamanya ba nige foreign rang chibong jamaina gapena song rang chibong jamaina chenga yarang ko anjengni song ba nambate badeng ciwala niko ja kuga ang naman gen sumang ode daong inga nabate aro nambate ja kudi ang naman gen sum odan thangde nambatken ani ang nakata kusyok begen.
We have seen growth of a small, empowered, novo-rich kind of an elite. And the elites of Meghalaya have controlled the polity and the economy of Meghalaya. And they have a lot of connections, and they have this front and back connections with people who matter in Delhi, also in economy, in trade. But these connections do not percolate down to the level of the masses. We do not also have a certain way of conserving the resources, the produced resources of the villages. And to top it all, extraction of minerals, illegal extraction and mining, and also denudation of forests. One can also look at the crowd of tourists and some kind of an economic activity through tourism. But that is, whether that is sustainable or not is the major question. We have to look for sustainability of the resources. Having resources is not the only way.
I don't know whether it was propped up by the politicians, this tourism that we have in Cherrapunji, or it is a natural development, natural evolution of a society in order to cope up with to augment their income. I would say it's more appropriate to augment the income of the people who have something to do. Otherwise, the common people are the same. They're just they sit in small shops on the roadside, and then if the tourists come, they buy something, maybe they get something. But to say that tourism has brought blessings to this place, I think it needs some other people to give the answer.
The political dynamics in the state also went through different stages of transformation in the last 50 years, with new parties, both regional and national, being introduced to the state politics, giving rise to prominent leaders throughout the decades.
From the time I'm aware of politics, it's like 30 years ago. The people do not choose a political party. When a political party has a person who the people trust, it wins. But finally, the winning is not that of party. So this all the manifestos, which we used to see, they are just a trick to fool the people. Babri at the time said, nonsense. I have never done a good thing. I did the right thing. So we need such kinds of politicians. But after Babri, I don't see any politician. It is only a politics of appeasement. Doing the right thing, it means he has to go against this appeasement, which is not found in today's politicians.
Meghalaya's regional political parties are so divided and fractured, and that is how the Meghalaya society actually remains fractured. Politics needs to be cleaned up, about which so many people speak. But what is mostly needed is to have a socio-economic agenda, ensuring the well-being and growth of the marginalized segments of people. Our nationalist parties are not able to understand pulse of the tribal life. They are far away from the tribal lifestyle, and they are not able to appreciate the specific ways in which tribal people live in Meghalaya. So national parties have to appreciate, practice tribal ways of life in order to make themselves relevant in Meghalaya. The Congress party has made itself relevant, even NPP has made itself relevant, and the leaders are from the local tribal community. But ideologically, these parties have not oriented themselves to the tribal social world, to the tribal moorings of culture.
Who have benefited the most from the statehood then?
I think the ones who benefited the most from the statehood is those people who have the wealth to contest elections, win elections. And then after the statehood, you find that the whole society is, I think, is divided into there's a cozy club. The members of the club are the politicians, their relatives, and then of those high-ranking officers, and then the wealth gathered by them. It's very hard for common people to get into the club and to be part of this, to be part of the share.
Being born and brought up along with the statehood of Meghalaya, the milestone of 50 years is worth celebrating for many. But how proud are we as citizens of this 50 years old beautiful state?
The people are not aware of the 50 years of statehood, but the ones who are not even proud, who are arrogant about having completed the 50 years journey, I think they are those guys who are in an assembly and who are aspiring to be someday.
I think it is a mixed feeling on my part. I cannot say that it's absolutely a pride. You know, like a person who's sick, you know, but endeavor himself to celebrate his birthday. Meghalaya is not totally healthy. It is sick somewhere. It needs to become more healthy. But nevertheless, since it is there, we have come of age, so we have to celebrate.
Obviously, there's a lot of things to be proud of. Meghalaya is considered as the Scotland of the East, the fascinating beauty, the prospects of tourism, the specific types of rice cultivation, the demand for Meghalaya coal, huge pool of talent in Meghalaya, which has not been explored. And that's really a matter of pride. And Meghalaya can attract a lot of good people, a lot of good investment, provided at the grassroots level, people's livelihood are secured. Meghalaya has shown a deep sense of constitutional commitment, its own tribal sense of values, its capability to absorb much from the mainstream culture and to give it back to mainstream, its linguistic and cultural diversity, its literary dynamism, its folk culture, its performative traditions. All these are excellent and superb. In the coming days, all these needs to be codified, systematized and presented before the world in a much more systematic manner. That will be an expectation from the state.
Jinglong jingman jong ka Meghalaya jongi kalong ka ba ki khot ka kham tam ngane ka jing shit ka jing khret kat ban biang mo ta ladangi ya kom ladangi ya nujor bat kiwe pat ki state habang ale sang kiwe ki state ngas ngo ya le dengam lar ban song slam ki tu state kham tam na mar ba ka jing shit te kat ba ka Meghalaya jongi pat kalong nganang ngo khuit na dong sedong mo na mar balai ngi dang duna ba kham tam kini factory mo ki ba penjaklia te ngi dang buon hi ki ding ki se ki ba don saka sodong song kun jang po Meghalaya ki ngi ki nong song senong ki ba don po kan ki Meghalaya jongi bengin dei ngi dei ban long ki bri ko yarap ke liang ki we ngam kwa ba utu bri burus pa on pe benyi ki nong ki badok lene ubaduk ru un supet jaudut yo ubah barus pa ngi kinong Meghalaya ngi deban ya teli ngi deban long ki beru ki ya teli lah ka khayi peteng lah ka rep kariang lah ha ka jing penya yo ki mar ki mata jang ni khnang ba ladang ye trelang ladang ye trilang mur ki jing e baro ki bangi don ka jing em jang ngi la ban ya ngi la ban sol nu ko mung tin pareng.
I think first that needs to be changed is the attitude of the people. So I think finally we need to look into ourselves, examine what kind of people we are, how aware are we about our own welfare, the future of our children, and so on.
Thank you for watching The Meghalayan. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to share and subscribe. Drop in your comments below. We would also like to hear your side of the story. Don't miss out on the third episode of Who Are We at 50. Follow us on all social media platforms #TheMeghalayan for more updates.